Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Jed Goggin. This evening we warmly welcome the family of Private Raymond Alexander Caldwell, whose story will be told shortly. As always, we welcome the veterans who are served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Service Clubs Association, and we welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Now, if you're able, I invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If you wish to and you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Raymond Alexander Caldwell. Raymond Caldwell was born on the 24th of August 1922 in Nabittabel, New South Wales, the son of John and Isabella Caldwell. He grew up in the Bega Valley Shire alongside his siblings Doris, John, Irene, Alma and Edith, and attended Cobargo Public School before going on to work as a lorry driver's assistant. With the advent of the Second World War in January 1940, the compulsory military training scheme, which had been suspended since 1929, was reintroduced, and the militia units were called up for periods of full-time training. Caldwell, who had joined the Citizens Military Forces in early December 1941, came to join the 3rd Battalion, then based in Canberra. After the Japanese attacks on Pearl Harbor and British territories in Malaya, the threat to Australia became more immediate, and militia units were mobilised and sent to New Guinea for defensive duties. In January 1942, the 3rd Battalion was brought up to its wartime establishment, with drafts of national servicemen recruited from regional New South Wales and the Australian Capital Territory. By the end of May, the men arrived in Port Moresby. The conditions in New Guinea were difficult. Dense jungles, rugged terrain, intense heat, and tropical disease made service highly dangerous. Caldwell succumbed to an episode of dengue in June. Though he returned to service in July, his health would never completely recover, and he would be plagued by problems until his death. Detached to the 36th Battalion in September, on his return to duty in November, he joined the newly established 7th Machine Gun Battalion. Raised in Port Moresby as the New Guinea Force Machine Gun Battalion, the battalion was formed by bringing together the machine gun companies of 6 infantry battalions already deployed in New Guinea. The men were initially employed to defend the beaches around Port Moresby against a possible Japanese landing. While this unit was a militia unit, Caldwell enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force regardless, doing so on the 7th of March 1943. 2 months later, he was again plagued by illness and was taken for medical care before returning to duty. Upon his return in July, he was graded signaller and conveyed his delight upon this accomplishment so strongly that he was later remembered in newspapers near his hometown as Signalman Caldwell. In Port Moresby, Caldwell continued training, undertaking defensive duties and working to improve defences. In August, the 7th Machine Gun Battalion was relieved, and Caldwell and his comrades embarked for Australia aboard the troop ship Duntroon. As the battalion began preparing for its next deployment, practising amphibious landings around Trinity Beach in Queensland, the decision was made to disband the unit and use its personnel to reinforce other units. The process of disbanding the unit would be completed by the end of April 1944. Caldwell, however, would not live to see this occur. In early 1944, he was taken to hospital in a dangerously ill state, suffering from intestinal obstruction and abdominal pain, believed to be the result of disease. His condition deteriorated rapidly, and he died on the 3rd of January 1944. He was buried 5 days later on the 8th of January at Atherton War Cemetery in Queensland, where his remains lie today. He was 21 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Raymond Alexander Caldwell, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope for a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. Wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.